I needed a place to stay desperately. The only person that seemed to help me was my sister. She welcomed me with open arms, and I thought that this was amazing. Until I found out that they were going to treat me so horribly and treated me like an absolute maid. All I wanted was a relationship with a sister that I never properly knew. My sister and I know nothing much about each other than the disappointment that our father was to us. Before he went to jail for the millionth time, he at least had the courtesy to introduce me to Rolene, my older sister. Rolene and I have different mothers and the same deadbeat father. My upbringing was not as great as Rolene's. Not that I'll blame either my mom or my dad for that. I understand that the situations are different for people, and fate plays a role. The few times that I met Rolene, I thought that she was the cool older sister. I could sit and listen to her about me for hours. I loved her life, about what college was like. She was the person who motivated me to attend college, even though my goal was to start a jewelry making business. I was so set on my dream to attend college, I already had everything set out. Mom and I had been saving for years, and our grandparents were also helping, but we did not plan for disaster. My mother fell ill during my senior year, and insurance would not cover most of the treatment because of the fine print. It's like they expect you to predict that you'll be ill within a certain condition in a year, so you can be fully covered for it. For that year, we used the money we had saved up for my mother's health care and for basic necessities. It was a stressful year for me, to say the least. I'm not like other people who can cope under pressure. When there was pressure, I cracked, and I did not do well in school. After graduation, the dream to go to college was absolutely crushed. I told my half-sister, but I'm used to referring to her as my full sister, but she didn't want me to give up. I'd already given up, though, and resigned myself to the fact that I would be stuck here for a few years. At least my mom was doing a whole lot better, and she was even working again. Well, then, behind my back, my mother and sister spoke. My sister came to visit me one day and told me to pack my bags. We're leaving. I asked what she meant, and she told me that she and mother spoke, and they decided that my town did not have the opportunities for me to allow me to grow. She told me that she had connections and could get me a job easily. I could stay with her and her boyfriend because they had a spare bedroom in their apartment. I was shocked at such kindness, but she told me that, of course, we're sisters. So I said goodbye and went to stay with my sister. My sister's life was different from mine, to say the least. Even the side that she lived in felt like the right side of the tracks, and I felt so out of place. But Rolene and Jackson were very welcoming. I also forgot to mention that they have a 3-year-old named Kyle. Kyle was the absolute sweetest thing, and it was my first time meeting him. They gave me a lovely room, gadgets, and a card to use for emergencies when they were not home. For the first 2 weeks, they showed me around town to their friends, all working upper-class people, and by the end of the week, I got a job in sales, working for one of her friends who had a job. There was a lot of work outside the store, passing flyers for her vegan cafe, but it was enjoyable and I got decent pay. Now, I was still new to the area, idolized my older sister, and felt like I owed her a lot. So when I got home and saw that the house was a mess, I cleaned it. I noticed that they were always in their room ignoring Kyle, so I babysat for them, no matter how tired I was. I did the little things that they didn't feel like doing. Why they did not have someone who cleaned their house was something that I didn't bother to ask. I knew there was someone who came in about once a week, but that was it. And that's how I became the designated maid. By the second month, I'd already stopped going out with them, and I would take care of their kid for free, no matter how tired I was from work. I got a bit depressed. After all, I could not go out with my friends. When they wanted to go out with me, I had to babysit Kyle. And Kyle at this point was a toddler, one of the most dangerous people in the world. He seemed like a sweetheart in the beginning, but if he decided to climb all the way up to the top cupboard, I was the one stuck getting him. As if that wasn't enough, they started waking me up in the wee hours of the morning before going to work. They got up earlier and came home earlier while I worked early afternoon till late night. Then, when I came home, I would pick up after them, cook, because, well, I hate eating junk food, and then I would leave or take care of the toddler who liked to sleep at 1 a.m. At this point, they're just locked in their bedroom, where I would serve them food, take any clothes that were littered on the floor, and then have to deal with a lecture. It started with small things, but they began to talk down on me, degrade me, but I never talked back because I was just grateful for having a place to stay. I planned to pay my dues when my salary arrived, by buying food and contributing to utilities, but would you imagine how I felt when I only got half my salary? When I asked my boss, who was their friend, she told me that it was, quote, for your rent, silly. Well, I was pretty mad at this point. Because they never discussed that with me. I was trying to save up so that I could start doing what I loved, and it was the designated maid, so I did not get what my half salary had to go to them for. They were earning quadruple what I earned and did not need the money, so I did not get why they would even try to do that to me. This time, I could not keep quiet. I complained to them about it, and I thought they were family, so I did not get why I was being so done dirty. They sat me down and gave me a lecture about all they had done for me and told me that they were the reason why I had the job in the first place. They could take it away in an instant. I didn't say anything in return to that. I told them that I was going out. I was tired of them dictating to me what I could do and not do, and I was sick of the walls of these apartments. This was when I met up with my friend. We had a few drinks and went to bed, and I did tell my sister where I was so she wouldn't stress. I was 19, at a friend's house, not doing any sketchy things. However, I woke up to voicemails from my mother telling me that she was oh so disappointed in me for the party girl lifestyle that I'm involved in. She further mentioned that Rolene said that I have a drinking problem and have been so rude to them, and had stolen their stuff valued at a ridiculous amount of money. I tried to tell my mom that these were all lies, but she was so disappointed that in the end, I just admitted it and promised to do better. When I saw my sister, whose face I had grown to hate, I wanted to strangle her. She had a look of triumph on her face when she saw me coming back. She told me that I was in her house and had to abide by her rules. Then she told me that they were going out for her birthday and my food was in the microwave. Once again, Kyle left with me. But Kyle, he didn't look very well. His hands were greasy. I tried to talk to him and ask him what he was eating, and he answered in the inherent toddler language but pointed at a plate. The plate had moldy-looking pizza that had some cheese slapped over it. It had been microwaved, and next to it was some Diet Coke. Coke for a toddler? Diet? With the amount of acid in it, I checked his food and saw that she had not even brought him porridge. There was only some yogurt left in the fridge. So I took that emergency credit card that she handed me. I took little Kyle and we went to the store, a little field trip. I bought him some cheaper food because I didn't want to charge too much on the card, and then took him home. He barely had 2 spoonfuls of food before I heard a and then saw beads of sweat going down his face. I called her, but she didn't answer the phone. I called her husband's phone, which went through, but I could barely hear anything. I texted him that this was going on, and then I took the keys to one of their cars, which was at home, and drove directly to the hospital. He was getting worse by the minute, and I was stressed as heck. I got him admitted, but still could not get a hold of those two. After some hours, I was allowed to see him. They told me that he had a tummy infection, and were starting to quiz me on what he's eaten when burst in Mommy and Daddy to the scene. They took over, and I was sidelined. I went back home and waited for them to come home with Kyle. When they came back, they told me they would get a babysitter and that I was going to have to pay for his treatment out of pocket because I gave him cheap food. I told him it was that moldy pizza they gave him, which made him sick, but of course they can't be wrong. That's not even the smallest thing that I had to deal with. Every day was a struggle. I stayed there for months, and in those months, they continued to take half my salary. Now that I did not have the responsibility of Kyle, though, I had my weekends back at least, and I just wanted to chill with a book in my room. But they would tell me to leave because they wanted either alone time or to have some friends over. I didn't have many friends, and sometimes people would already have plans for their weekend, and I dreaded the weekends, to be honest with you, not knowing where I would sleep. When I told Rolene, she told me to get a boyfriend, stop being so dumb. She did not even think for me every time. The last thing I had in my mind was a boyfriend. It was trying to stay alive in her house. It was such just a hostile environment there, and every day they shouted at me, called me names, and sometimes my sister went as far as to lay her hands on me. I felt like I was a rabid animal in my own sister's house. I even learned that their footsteps so that I would hide when I heard them coming up the stairs. And all this time I did not tell Mom, because I knew they were just going to spin lies directly to her. After nearly 6 months of this, I decided that if I did not move out, then I was going to die of depression. I didn't need a therapist to tell me that I was suffering under these conditions. I did not know when the once kind people had turned into these absolute vile monsters who tormented me at every chance they got, but I wasn't going to take it any longer. I found an apartment, paid my deposit, and asked to talk to them so that I did not just leave under bad conditions. I can at least say that I never insulted them, even though I really wanted to. I thanked them for their hospitality and told them that I had to leave so that I could have my own life. They told me, "Do what you want," and then they left me alone. Hours later, my mother was asking me who the dodgy boyfriend I was moving in was, and I saw it as the control tactic that they were trying to use on me so that I would stay. I got that they were ones who brought me here and got me a job, but I didn't really need to be crucified for that, did I? I told my mom it was not true, but I would talk to her later, and then I went to work. My focus was off for the whole day, and when lunchtime rolled around, I locked myself in the back and just broke down crying. My boss, who is the kindest person ever, found me and asked what was going on. I told her it didn't matter because she would tell her friends and I would be made the bad guy. She told me to trust her, and then I told her everything. You know what she told me? She told me that they told her that half of my salary, which went to them, was money that I volunteered to them for rent. We spoke for a long time and realized that they lied about a lot of things, and then she told me something else. She told me that they were in a lot of debt because of the lifestyle that they were trying to lead. Their clothes, cars, etc. cost way more than the money that they had, and they kept on borrowing money from her at times, citing emergencies. I asked why she kept letting them have it, and she said that they were her friends and had done her some favors in the past. She said she didn't care how long she had to know these two, but what they were doing to me was wrong, and she would help me out. She was especially horrified when I told her about the Kyle fiasco. So right then she drafted an email telling them that I lost my job and would not be getting that month's salary, which was an absolute abominable lie. She gave me my full salary and told me to start fresh. When I got home, I found all my bags packed neatly, and I gladly left since I wasn't their cash cow anymore. I got settled into my new place and continued working for my boss, who ended her friendship with them. They badmouthed me to anyone who would listen, but no one really cared about what they even had to say. I think everyone was now sick of how fake they were, and their treatment of me had absolutely no justification behind it. I blocked them everywhere after they would not stop harassing me, and then I visit my mother and told her everything. With the proof that I have, she believed me and apologized for believing the horror stories that Rolene told her about me. Rolene called my mother to explain to her and lie to her even more while I was there. But my mother gave her the scolding that she deserved. She told her, quote, "You might have a lot of money, but you have the poorest character I've ever seen." The person I feel sorry for, though, is Kyle, who has such shallow parents who would feed him moldy pizza because they would not be darned just to get him proper food. I do not even give it a year before the state starts noticing that they're not good parents and that child is taken away from them with CPS. As for myself, I'm settled into my tiny apartment, and I'm finally back on my feet. I'm saving, and have already started making some pieces fall into place. I'm thinking of using the sales knowledge I've gotten at my day job to maybe start an online shop and sell it there, as a hobby, until it peaks up. I can say that I'm no longer feeling so trapped and hopeless. I feel like my priorities have shifted now that I've become disillusioned about my sister. The fact that the parents would feed Kyle moldy pizza should say exactly what type of people they are. Guys, let me know your thoughts about this story, how bad of a parenting they did, and just basically how they treated OP. Drop your thoughts down below and tell me what you would have done differently. Or if you would have done everything the same as OP, let me know that as well. Guys, we still have a second story, and the title is this: Am I the a-hole for moving out of the apartment my parents bought for me, after they made me let my brother come and live there? Alright guys, if you're new to the channel, my name's Mr. Reddito. I read stories every single day. If that's something you're into, make sure you subscribe, and here is story number 2. When I got into university, my parents purchased an apartment close to the campus so that I could live my own way without having to deal with other people. I'm not social, and I could be best described as either a misanthropist or curmudgeonly. It was great for 2 years, and I came out of my shell a little. I met other people like me and discovered that, unlike high school, university is not hell. I even met a guy we both work at the campus store. My little brother graduated last year and got into the same school. Rather than stay in dorms, he convinced my parents to let him move in with me. Well, they own it, so I had no say. I lasted 1 semester. Since he had an off-campus residency, my apartment became basically party central. I asked my parents to make him stop after talking to him didn't work, and they said to loosen up. I think they know how to change my personality. I talked to the university and was able to snag a rare single room in the mature student dorm. I don't have a lot of stuff, so when we went home for Christmas, I took what was really important to me. My boyfriend, first one ever, by the way. Look at me, all social now. Cleaned out my room and moved my stuff to the student housing for me. When we drove back after New Year's, I dropped off my brother and then went to my new place. It isn't perfect, but it's pretty sweet. My parents called me and asked where I was. My brother had let them know I wasn't in the apartment anymore. I told them where I was and why I was there. They were upset that they spent all the money to help me and I didn't appreciate it. I said I did, until they stuck me with my brother. Without me there, he's having a blast. Good for him. He's also missing a lot of classes and has been fined for noise complaints by the condo board. But that's not my problem. My parents are asking me to please move back in because my brother is in danger of being put on academic probation. I asked if I was allowed to bar him from having parties and stuff, and he was part of the conversation and was upset that I was asking to be put in charge of him. My parents said he was allowed some freedom and that, as his big sister, I should look out for him and not let him fail. I thanked them for the opportunity, but strictly declined. And he recently had a party that the cops had to shut down. My parents are considering selling the apartment, but it's kind of a crappy market right now, I guess. I feel bad that they might lose money after doing something so awesome for me. And I feel bad that my idiot brother might have to take time off school just to calm down. But I don't think I'm the a-hole. They all do, though. The comment section of this one was popping off. Let's read a couple comments. Not the a-hole is basically what everyone's saying, and they're also quoting this part from the story. I asked if I was allowed to bar him from having parties and stuff. He was part of the conversation and was upset that I was asking to be put in charge of him. My parents said he was allowed some freedom and that as his bigger sister, I should look out for him and not let him fail. Your parents want to spoil their son but blame you for the consequences of their crappy parenting. You are 100% right to wash your hands of it dry. Guys, let me know your thoughts about that. I agree the sister should not have to put up with that, and living in her own space is her decision. Drop your thoughts down below. Thank you for tuning in. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.